Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. If you notice it carefully, we have two opposite characters in our gospel today. They are differently characterized in our gospel so that we can see the very point of Jesus. Jesus wanted to tell us that in our attitude in giving, God doesn't see the quantity of how much we give, but the quality of the heart of the giver. And we have to understand that. And Jesus explained that today in our gospel by giving us two important characters, the scribes and the poor widow who contributed to the treasury in the temple. Now let's describe the scribes. Who are the scribes during the time of Jesus? They were people who was described in the first part of our gospel today. They are those who wanted to show off. They wanted always to be noticed. They wanted always to be recognized. And they wanted that their authority be noticed also. And they made long prayers, and in some part of the gospel, Jesus told them that they are hypocrites. Now, the opposite to them, Jesus mentioned about the widow in our gospel today. Who are the widows during the time of Jesus? Today, in our time, sometimes the widows, after their husband dies, they became instant millionaires, or they became very, very rich if they belong to a family who are rich, or if their husbands are rich. Instantly, they will become rich. But during the time of Jesus, let us all remember that the society lived in patriarchal society, meaning those who are recognized, those who are given jobs are the men. The women have no value. They are nothing. They are on the level of domesticated animals. So we can imagine if somebody who is a widow losing her husband will also be losing the everyday livelihood, the everyday income. And we can imagine further if that widow had 4 or 5 small children. So that widow will live in charity, in asking alms from the relatives, from the neighbors, or even from other people. And we can imagine as well, if this widow would go to the temple, she is in want and have nothing to spend for the day, yet our widow in our gospel today give some amount to the temple, to the treasury. And according to Jesus, comparing this with the amount given by the rich people, big amount, big sum of money to the treasury, compared with the 2 small coins given, Jesus concluded this poor widow had given the biggest amount among all the people who came to contribute to the treasury. Because the rich people give out of their surplus. But this widow gave everything she has. Maybe the 2 small coins will be for food. Maybe she prepared that to buy food, yet she had nothing to give to the temple. So she had given everything. And in the eyes of Jesus, this is giving the wholeness, the greatness, and everything to God. Brothers and sisters, our gospel today is reminding us on how do we give to God? How do we give, how do we contribute to the church? How do we give to others? Are we like the rich people in the gospel today mentioned that when they gave out of their surplus? I remember in my country, in the Philippines, we are always visited by typhoon. And the typhoons are, of course, stronger and they destroy houses. They leave also some people uh, suffering after the typhoon. So there is always a charitable campaign after the typhoon so that those parishioners who are well off can contribute to those who have nothing and who are suffering. And we always campaign priests for people to contribute. They can give clothes, they can give groceries, food, rice, or even money so that we can help them go on with their lives. And most of the time, whenever we collect clothes, we always discover those tattered clothes, those clothes that cannot be used anymore. I remember, I received these 3 boxes of tibak. Now, can you imagine those who have already been devastated by the typhoon and they have to still use the tibak, or even the indigenous tribes? We have to go our mission on indigenous tribes and we have to distribute tibak because it is already the surplus in their buy and sell business. Look at these people, even clothes which cannot be used anymore, or foods that already expired, milk or canned goods that has already expired because they cannot use it anymore. This is our attitude. We want to give those things which we cannot use anymore, the surplus out of what we have used already. But there are those really who are very, very generous. I am not saying that the rich are not generous. Many of the rich has this heart for Jesus, for God. But the warning in our gospel today is, do not be like those who give out of their surplus. The things that we cannot use anymore in the house, the things that we cannot eat anymore, we give to others. And that is not an act of charity. That is not an act of generosity. That is cleansing our hands so that others can benefit from the things that we would not use anymore. So brothers and sisters, let us imitate this poor widow in our gospel today. Give out of our genuine generosity. Give out of our heart, not out of the surplus of what we don't want anymore. And out of our heart, when we give out of our heart, this is genuine generosity. If we go back to the first reading, again, we can encounter this widow who also give everything. Give a meal to a prophet, a widow who have given a meal to a prophet, and she was rewarded. And I am sure that the widow in our gospel today, after giving a good example, maybe God must have rewarded her also. And if it is already, if we give also, coming from our heart, I'm sure that God, who is full of mercy and compassion, will reward us also. So let us pray that we may have this opportunity to give coming from our heart, that we may be inspired on how Jesus gave himself totally and wholeheartedly for the salvation of all. He is our example in our charitable deeds, and He is example in giving, genuine giving to others. Let us always